A boycott? Shall we drink to that? Callahan writes, the Galilean masses effectively boycott the feast of the Judeans in order to be with Jesus. Now, my understanding of the Passover in Jerusalem is that it is crowded. The streets of Jerusalem are filled with people who have come to the feast. Like an ancient spring break or an ancient bike week. But in this story, the crowd has gathered in Jerusalem to share the Passover meal is mentioned and then juxtaposed with this crowd that is following Jesus. This crowd that has come with Jesus from Jerusalem. The gathering in Galilee is radically different from the one which is about to take place in Jerusalem. Callahan reminds his readers of something that had happened shortly before the Passover gathering. In the Gospel of John, the 2nd chapter, I'm pretty sure, that's where we read about Jesus cleansing the temple. Shortly before Jesus and the disciples and the crowd crossed over that sea, climbed that mountain, Jesus had made a stand on behalf of the oppressed. He cleansed the temple. Remember that story? We talked about it in lesson 4, and we framed it with this question. When you were baptized, what kind of faith did you think you were being baptized into? What did you think Christianity was about? When you were baptized, when we were baptized, what kind of Jesus did we think we were following? Did anyone suggest at that moment that we would be following a whip-yielding, chaos-creating, table-turning Jesus who caused a scene? Wasn't part of my baptism. But the question is, why? Why did Jesus do that? What caused Jesus to become so wildly passionate that he turned over tables, started a stampede? Well, the reason is the rules that had been created by the people in authority were heavy. They were unreasonable. They were oppressive. The authorities had made unreasonable and oppressive and actually unattainable requirements in order for people to enter into God's presence and to worship. The rules that had been laid down required that anyone coming to worship God had to provide an adequate or an appropriate sacrifice. And if the person didn't have this sacrifice, and in those days it was an animal, if a person didn't have the appropriate animal to sacrifice as a way of making atonement, think scapegoat, the religious authorities would be happy to sell them one. So that the ones who were impoverished, those without resources, the widows, the orphan, the lowly, the lost, the least, had to make a choice. They had to make a choice. In order to obtain the appropriate sacrifice, they had to make a sacrifice.